everybody. So, Daniel Bryan has been barred from SmackDown. Roman Reigns defeated him. And boy, Paul Heyman does not want you to forget about it. I'm Casualeann. Come with me. So, this episode of Talking Smack started with Kayla asking Paul Heyman how he's feeling. She knows that it is party time in the mind of the special counsel for Roman Reigns. And he is on his smug mode because he tells her that he feels with his hands. Alrighty? Doesn't shake her. She asks him what his clothes process is like because she knows that, he was proud of his wardrobe today. And he says it starts with him getting out of the shower naked. That's the kind of mode he's on right now. So Kayla says before they start talking about Roman Reigns the entire show, which would have been fine by me, she's going to invite their first two guests to come up, which are Natalya and Tamina. And so Natalya is kind of making her case for getting a shot at at Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. I guess they've never had a match with them before. But anyway, she says that they deserve to fight them for the SmackDown women's titles. And Tamina interrupts her and starts screaming. She says she knows that Nia thinks she doesn't know what she's doing, but she actually does. She calls her sis. I guess this iteration of Tamina's character is like, I would call it unhinged, but that implies an initial connection. She said some things in Samoan, which I don't understand why WWE doesn't subtitle some things. And even if SmackDown is still unscripted, it's still something they need to deal with. They did the same thing with Bad Bunny. He performed his entire song, no subtitles whatsoever. They have the agencies, they have their resources, they have native speakers around. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to subtitle people. Okay, that rant's over. It's still a really weird promo from Tamina. She's screaming about, can you feel my passion? And it's very much it's very much an English 200 kind of disgust for me. It's a lot of telling versus showing. You don't have to say, can you feel my passion? You just have to talk about passionate things. So, something like, I know that people want to know, like, who is the most powerful Samoan woman on this show. People want to see us really go at it. Something like that. And we know as you talk about it that it's passionate. You don't have to tell people that. You can show it to them. But I don't know. This promo had some problems for me. But after Tamina stops screaming and like walks off, Natalya says she has to go and check on her, and she leaves Paul Heyman standing, not sitting. He's standing and like way far off, like he's terrified. Mind you, Natalya was in between Tamina and Paul, so I mean it's not like theoretically she could have like just hopped over top of her and took him out or something. But anyway, Kayla asks him if he has any thoughts about this, and he's like, I'm not going to talk about her. I'm scared I'm going to piss her off. But that's how segment 1 ends. Such a strange little segment. So strange. They go to a commercial. And one of the ads is on the A&E Most Wanted Treasures, which is this series about some of the lost memorabilia of WWE superstars. So like Undertaker's first hat, Mick Foley's or Mankind's first shirt. It seems interesting, Like, it's almost got kind of like an American Pickers type of vibe, even though I know that's not what it's about. It's interesting to me, but not as much as like the actual biographies. You get another promo for WWE 2K22 featuring Rey Mysterio, and I think he's fighting Cesaro in this commercial. It's all, you know, great graphics, really realistic looking. The fine print says that it's like footage in progress, so I don't know if like the end of it is going to be better or if it's going to be worse. We come back and we're in segment 2, and the two people are Apollo and Commander Aziz, and they're looking like total butt kickers. But somebody should have put like a necktie on Commander Aziz's fist or on the top of his braid or something, because as a viewer, you definitely walk in on Apollo being very affectionate with his Intercontinental Championship. Seems like there's like a lot of that, like my baby, I love you type of thing with like the mid-carders. Apollo's saying that he knows how Roman Reigns feels now, having gold and having everybody like after you, because he's saying, hey, Sami Zayn is after me, Big E's still after me, Kevin Owens is after me now, and he's gonna follow Roman Reigns' example. He says our, like third person, our tribal chief's example. I guess Apollo is Nigerian royalty or descended from Nigerian royalty, but he's still under the tribal chief. Do those hierarchies even cross up in any sort of way? When Apollo eliminates, and he will, he says, when he eliminates Big E and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, then he and Commander Aziz and Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns are all gonna hop on the jet and they're gonna go celebrate. And Kayla is not invited. He tells, before they leave, Commander Aziz to fire up the jet. I guess the commander title extends to aviation. I guess Commander Aziz can fly planes. With that, he goes off. And Paul Heyman says, see, this is what Roman does for great talent. And all of this is a very nice callback to the really early part of his storyline. Like before he even starts the gimmick of like the Nigerian royalty. Before he even started that, you would see these little vignettes of him like sitting with Roman and kind of watching him do things or talking with him a little bit, you know, Roman in his little office chair and Apollo beside him. But it's interesting to see like a little bit of that callback, because again, that's not something you get all of the time, and it's not something that got all that developed in a storyline. But again, nice continuity. We get another commercial break, and the final ad coming back into segment 3 is about the COVID-19 vaccine, and a lot of superstars appear in it, but Daniel Bryan specifically is in it. I think he starts it out even, or he might be one of the first to speak. I'm not exactly sure. But when they come back and Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins are there, Paul is bent out of shape because they had the ad that Daniel Bryan was in. He is bent out of shape about this ad that Daniel Bryan was in. It was somewhat humorous because, you know, his argument is Daniel Bryan has been banned from SmackDown. We don't want to see him anymore. And he even apologizes to Seth Rollins for like this egregious error. Not only for the error with Daniel Bryan, but also for some reason they played Seth Rollins' old music. He does have a new theme now. I don't know if it was purposeful to like get that conversation going or if it was a genuine accident, but yeah. Paul is fawning all over Seth Rollins. He's complimenting his wardrobe. He's calling him a visionary. He says that Fashion Nova needs to have their own Seth Rollins account. Kayla does manage to get a couple questions in this time. She asks if he's concerned about being swung again. She also asks how he is so confident that he can beat Cesaro this time around at Backlash. I'm sorry, WrestleMania's Backlash. And Seth Rollins says that, you know, this is different from WrestleMania because there was this 30-minute rain delay. He's hammering this point home about the 30-minute rain delay. And that he, as an elite athlete, if anything gets thrown off by the slightest amount of time, it throws everything off. Absolutely everything. In just a moment. To say nothing of 30 minutes. And by that stretch, hey, the whole victory ought to be just stricken from the record. Why not? And there's this kind of back and forth between he and Paul Heyman in like a almost invisible classroom setting where Seth is asking Paul Heyman questions like, am I an elite athlete? Oh, yes, Mr. Heyman. Yes, you are. It's very funny. But that Roman has inspired Seth Rollins, and he knows that Cesaro is just looking past him at this point to Roman. And so Seth is going to beat him, and Roman Reigns again has inspired him. Kayla says she would love to have him back to talk, and he asks if that's an invitation, and again, Paul is stepping all over her, you know, extends an open invitation for him to come back whenever. So at this point, we get another commercial break, and then again, the fourth segment is always dedicated to Paul Heyman. Kayla seems a little disgusted this time. I mean, this is what happens, but hey. So Paul Heyman runs down his history. He says that in WCW, he took a kid, and when it was time, put him at the doorstep of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and that kid ended up being The Undertaker. And then he casts his relationship with The Undertaker as a Faustian bargain. So basically that The Undertaker sold his soul, and when it was time to collect, the collection came in the form of his undefeated streak at WrestleMania, because, you know, Paul was special counsel for Brock Lesnar. The WrestleMania streak. I'm fine with it ending. It's okay. It's all right that it ended. I'm fine with it ending. Can you tell I'm not fine with it? He also gives Steve Austin his due. And he says that Steve Austin, he is responsible for giving the Stone Cold mindset to. Even though, I mean, the term came from Steve Austin's wife at the time, because she was British, and she told Stone Cold if he didn't drink his tea, it was going to get stone cold. But Paul Heyman is responsible for the mindset. But he's making the case that this is how long that he's been associated with greatness. This is the illustriousness of the company that he keeps. And in that regard, he still is building his own credibility and saying that despite all of this, all of these amazing people that I know and am partially responsible for, Roman is still the best. He says he's in awe of him. Again, all these people that he's been associated with, he is in awe of Roman Reigns. Again, he talks up Daniel Bryan and Edge. He says, you know, how many times have people tried to put down the Yes movement? He talks about Edge having to have his hip broken and pieces of bone being put back into his neck in order for him to just regain some mobility. And even him coming back from all of that, who took him out, who was bad enough to take him out? Roman Reigns. And so he calls him the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I mean, it was absolutely fascinating to see like a little bit more of that history coming into kind of the kayfabe world, and you getting like a sense of like, wow, like this is not just the TNA dude and the Brock Lesnar dude. Like, this is a serious force that we get to hear from every single week. And in that way, he's kind of answering through his promo the fact that Cesaro kind of got under his skin last week, because he says that he hopes that Cesaro, or he's glad rather, that Cesaro doesn't have a wife, that Cesaro doesn't have children, because if Cesaro had a wife and children, they would see him be humiliated when he steps away, when he has to back out. And so with that, I guess I'll use that as a segue into my must-watch segment. This was the one out of the 4. If you want that kind of history, if you want to know, you know, just a little bit more, get that little bit of context, this is the segment to see. As far as a rating is concerned, I'm going to give this one a 3. I mean, the Paul Heyman segment is as good, again, as I would expect, you know, 4 or 5 territory. But the Natalya Tamina segment, it was trash. It was so bad that it kind of, like, they kind of canceled each other out. And then Apollo and Seth Rollins were kind of middle of the road. So, yeah, 3. That was Talking Smack from the 1st of May. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tap that bell icon to make sure that you get notifications as to when new videos come. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you soon.